Hi everyone, so today I'm going to show you how I apply my resin to my painting. I have a large 10 inch by 26 inch board that I've done recently, and I've embellished it with some gold leaf. So I'm going to add one layer of resin today, and I have it pre-mixed already. I didn't want to bore you with the mixing, but I will tell you that I'm using the art resin, okay? That's the resin, and this is the hardener. And it's a ratio of 50-50. There aren't any secrets to that. It's a 50-50 ratio. So I have mixed in here 12 ounces. I mixed it in a measuring cup. It's a cheap one I got from the dollar store. And I have a tongue depressor I'm using to stir it. Okay, and I mix it for about 3 to 5 minutes. And I have my gloves on, have adequate ventilation in my room. This is a safety video in the sense of you do have to have proper ventilation. You can wear gloves to prevent any sticky resin from coming on your hands. Art Resin has a fabulous website where you can use their calculator to figure out how much resin you're going to need. I always end up using a little bit more just because I'd rather have a little bit too much than not have enough. So I always mix a little bit more than I actually need for the piece. And if you're doing the sides of your painting, you have to account for that as well. So something to keep in mind. Now this is a video as to how I apply my resin. I know there are other videos out there that are just as good, if not better. This is how I do it. So there is no right or wrong in this video. If you don't like it, if you don't like my channel, you don't have to watch it. I had to take my previous resin video down because I received a lot of backlash and criticism about it. And this is my channel, and I do things the way I do them, and that works for me. And I've been adding resin for a long time now, over 2.5, almost 3 years. So this isn't my first time, and I'm still here to talk about it. I'm filming this on a tripod because I did get backlash that I put my son's life in jeopardy. I have reached out to Art Resin, and their product is not as toxic as some of the resins out there. It's an art resin, it's a craft resin. Now I have used Pro Marine Epoxy, which is a completely different type of resin that you do need adequate ventilation for, and certain chemical reactions can occur if you don't ventilate properly and use the product within a specific time frame or way of mixing. But this is just 50-50. There are some bubbles. Yes, I'm taking this out, and yes, this is, you know, you could use a silicone stick to stir it. I'm using a wooden tongue depressor. Why? Because I can. It's my channel. Okay. What else can I tell you? Just mix it very well together. Like I said, you are going to have some bubbles in here, but that's okay. There's no way of getting around it. We will be torching this at the end to get rid of all of the bubbles, so it'll be as clear as glass. So I've given this a stir. I've been stirring for about 5 minutes, and it's a little bit bubbly. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm trying to get a close-up here. That's okay though, okay? There's no rhyme or reason. This is a fairly large piece, and I do not want the sides done because they're beautiful wooden sides, so I want to preserve that, but I want to add resin to this main piece, and I'm going to layer it. So I probably will be adding another coat of resin once this is dry, because I do like to do multiple layers. So, no rhyme or reason to how we do this. I'm just going to pour. Okay, so I'm pouring my resin. This piece has been painted now for over a week. So it's fairly dry. I'm not worried about it. I'm just spreading that around a little bit. Hope you can see this. It's a little different when you're filming on a tripod, but I hope you get the idea. And again, just spreading that to the edge. Hope you can see that. I apologize for the late filming of this video. I'm incredibly busy. I work as a nurse, and I love my job, love what I do. Work in plastic surgery. And I recently became a certified cosmetic nurse injector, so been a little bit busy, but again, I'm loving it. So it's left me very little time to do my art, and for that I apologize, because I know, as I had mentioned, I had a video uploaded and I had to pull it down, so I apologize for that. So that's one half, and I'm going to pour on the other half. This is a beautiful piece. This board was gifted to me by a friend, and I'm loving it. So I want to do it justice and resin it pretty. It'll really make the colors and metallics pop. So again, just to the corner, just to the edge, I should say, rather. And again, I hate running out, and I've been in this situation where, but very rarely, I think it only happened to me once, where I didn't have enough resin, and I thought to myself, never again. And yes, this is an expensive product, and yes, you don't want to waste it. I understand that. But if you don't have enough resin mixed up and you're short, it's very difficult to run back and remix another batch of resin while this is drying, and it becomes tacky and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess and disaster. So I'd rather have a little bit more than not have enough. You can argue both sides, again, that it's wasteful, but I tend to look at it as saving myself some time. And, you know, this was 12 ounces of resin for a 10 by 26 inch piece, not doing the sides. And it just makes it. So, and I do like using the art resin. Haven't had any trouble. I do let my pieces dry adequately for at least a week or two. I mean, it depends what type of paint you use. If you're using acrylics with water, such as this piece, doesn't have any silicone or oil added to it, then you really don't need to wait longer than that. But for safety's sake, I would wait at least a couple of weeks before adding any resin or varnishes to your pieces, only because you just don't know what the layers underneath are doing. And Gina DeLuca, she's one of my favorites, she has a great video as to how to clean and prep your pieces and paintings, and she speaks to how to prep them for resin or varnish, and there's a reason she put that video out, because you do need to wait a little bit. I added resin to a piece once that I was impatient about, and I completely ruined it. It looked awful. So be patient. Now I'm just making sure this is all even. This is a big piece, so I just want to make sure this is all even. This is a self-leveling resin, so what that means is that it will even itself off, but I'm just making sure I have all the edges. That said, I did take a level prior to applying the resin. I didn't show you, but I do take a level to make sure the piece is actually level, and otherwise you'll end up with lopsided resin, even though it's self-leveling. So you don't want that. And I'm just looking here, taking it off to the edge. It's good to have a little bit of sunlight. There's my air compressor. I didn't do anything specific to clean this piece prior. Like I said, I don't use any oils or silicones in my paintings, so didn't have to do that. Just made sure it was dry and just took the air compressor. So I'm just torching my piece here. Get rid of all of those little bubbles. And just making sure. Now, if you do end up with bubbles, sometimes what happens, even when you torch your piece, you may end up with tiny little bubbles that come to the surface after the fact. Don't worry about it. So what you can do is re-resin it, sand it down a little bit, and you can get rid of those pesky bubbles. I have a very small torch, so forgive me, but let me see if I can crank up a little bit more here. You don't want to overdo it because you'll dry the resin, it will start to cure. But you want to make sure that you resin all of those little bubbles. And I do have gold leaf in here, so it's not going to be 100% even. It's the look I'm after anyway. There is some gold leaf in here. I'm not going to worry about it too much because I may be adding more. And in fact, what I might do, forgive me, I am taking my gloves off, my bad. Don't worry about it, I'm still here. What I do is, what I may do is add a few more flakes of this gold leaf. And I'll be darned if I know where my tweezers disappeared. Everything always disappears on me, so I'm just gonna use my hands and fingers here, add a few more pieces of the gold leaf. And just pat that down. This piece again will be resined with another layer of resin, so I'm not too worried about it. And like my friend Claire says, Trippy Acrylics, if you're striving for perfection, that's when things start to go south. So I like things when they're a little imperfect, so to speak. Puts a unique spin on your piece and it makes it yours. So don't be frustrated if something doesn't look quite right. Maybe that's the way it was meant to look. Think of it that way. It's like my art teacher used to say, and I finally realized what she was trying to tell me all those years ago, is let your wrong lines help you find the right ones. So it was very well said, and I think she had a point, but I was too young and snotty back then to see what she was really trying to tell me, but I see it now. Just pouring a little bit more resin over those parts. I'm just showing you that you can add a little bit more gold even when you've laid down your gold prior. So you can just play around with it a little bit. You do have a bit of a window with this resin to work with it. Now, I'm just gonna take another look. I do see I have some bubbles in that area just because of the light. So I am gonna torch it again and get rid of them. See, they've come to the surface, which is fine. I mean, they're allowed. We don't want them in the piece. We want all the bubbles gone. But it can happen. It's not a big deal. What's a big deal is if you have a hair, if you have some dust land in it, that's when it becomes annoying, and I've had that happen. And being a perfectionist, I really don't like when that happens, and you'll see me add another coat of resin to things to the point where that's when it starts getting really expensive, is when you start adding multiple layers of resin because you're striving for perfection. And I can see a little bit of dust there, but with this piece and going to be adding more gold to it rather, I'm not too worried about it or concerned about little dust specks here and there because they're very hard to see actually. Just torching that again because some more air bubbles came to the surface, but it looks pretty good. And try to have a room or use a room where, okay, you do have adequate ventilation, but that's going to be disrupted the least amount of time possible because you don't want a heavy traffic or heavy volume area because it will scoot out all the dust in the air and it'll have an impact on your piece for sure. So you want a nice quiet area where there's going to be limited traffic. And I'm just taking another look to make sure that all of this is perfect. And am I happy? Not 100, but I'm getting there. Anyhow, and I do these YouTube videos of mine really to help people. I don't do it because it's not a lucrative career. I'm not dying to get hundreds and thousands of subscribers. I do it to help others, so I'm hoping this video does actually help someone. You don't have to be a professional or, you know, be pumping out one canvas after another to make a point. I do it for the passion of it, and I hope it shows in my work. I think it does. My work has a purpose, and my main goal is to basically create something for people to enjoy and for people to love as much as I love making it. And again, it's all about passion and loving what you do. So I love art. I've actually have a degree in fine art and English, believe it or not, but I did go back to school for nursing. And so I do combine my art with my nursing. See, there's a little speck there that I'm not 100% happy about, but this is where, you know, the perfectionism starts taking over. So you can always scooch it around over the side, like I can see here. There's a tiny dollop that I'm not happy with, and it is closing and it is leveling itself. But again, if that's not perfect, you know, I can always fix it later with more resin. But it is looking rather good. There's a piece of dust right there as well. And another one here. So what I do after this point in time, I'm happy with it. You start fiddling, you start leaving it alone for too long, and dust will land on it. Doesn't matter how clean or how low traffic your room is. So what I like to do at this point is take my cover. I have a big laundry tub cover that I got at Walmart. And it just goes over to protect the piece. And make sure that it's large enough so that no sides are touched, and this one's fine. And that just gets laid very gently on top of that, and it's done. So I'm hoping this helps somebody. And again, it doesn't take a lot to add resin to a piece. Just take your time, mix the resin well. It's a 50-50 ratio, and you should be great to go. Again, if you're using a countertop product, that's an industrial product, please read the instructions, and you may need ventilation and a heavy duty mask. But I mean, you rarely use the stone coat or the Pro-Marine that's used for countertops. That's an industrial resin, I call it. It's a beautiful resin, but again, you don't necessarily need it for art projects, but if you want to use it, I love using it because it's very high quality and I find it easy to work with. Do crack open a window, have your vent on, wear a mask, wear your gloves. I didn't get any resin whatsoever on my hands, so I was wearing gloves earlier. If you use that popsicle stick or whatever it is that you want to use to spread it around, if you use a silicone stick, you can peel the resin off later. So it's whatever you want to do. There's no right or wrong in terms of application. It's just more cost effective, I think, to reuse materials. I don't, but it's not to say that I'm doing something wrong. So to each their own. Just be safe about it. Safety's number one. And hope you enjoyed it and hope this helps someone. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.